Ruby Bridges. Who was Ruby Bridges? Ruby Bridges was a little girl who made a big difference. Ruby was born in 1954. She and her family lived in the South. What was the South like when Ruby was young? Some laws in the South were not fair to black people. These laws kept black people and white people separate. A United States law said that all children had to go to the same school. State laws in the South still kept black and white children separate. Black children and white children had to go to different schools. Many people worked to make Southern schools follow the United States law. How was Ruby brave? Ruby was chosen to go to a white school the first grade in 1960. She was the only black student in that school. Many white parents did not want their children to go to school with a black child. They kept their children at home. Some angry white people stood outside Ruby's new school. They yelled at Ruby every day when she went to school. Ruby kept going to school. Officers kept her safe. Many people helped Ruby while she went to school. Ruby had a nice teacher named Mr. Henry. Ruby was the only child in Mr. Henry's classroom. All the other kids had been pulled out of the class by their parents. A man named Mr. Coles helped Ruby too. Mr. Coles helped Ruby with the way she felt about going to school. Ruby drew pictures about her feelings. Many neighbors helped Ruby and her family too. They worked with her to keep her safe on her way to school. How did Ruby make a difference? Ruby was a brave girl who didn't let anything stop her from going to school. She showed people that children can help change a country. The next year, other black students went to school with Ruby. Today, when many different children go to school together, Ruby still works to bring children together. She still works to make the world fair for everyone. One, which of the following in the author's purpose for writing this story? A. To present, present the reader to go to a different school. B. To inform the reader about Ruby Bridges and how she made a difference. C. To entertain the reader with funny stories about Ruby Bridges. D. To inform the reader about Ruby Bridges and how she made a difference. 2. What is one big difference between schools in Ruby's time and school today? A. In Ruby's time, some school helps with and black children apart. B. In Ruby's time, children attended school without any teacher. C. In Ruby's time, many different children went to school together. A. In Ruby's time, some schools kept with the black children apart. 3. Which of the following is a detail that supports the main idea of the story that Ruby Bridges was a little girl who made a big difference? A. Ruby was born in 1954. She lived in the South. B. Ruby was a brave girl who didn't let anything stop her. C. Ruby grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. D. Ruby was a brave girl who didn't let anything stop her. 4. The word separate means to A. Draw together, B. Change, C. Keep apart, C. Keep apart. 5. What details do the pictures add to the story? A. The pictures show how Ruby felt during this event. B. The pictures show what Ruby's home was like. C. The picture explain the main idea of the story. A. The pictures show how Ruby felt during this event.